Good evening, everyone. Happy bank holiday weekend to those in the UK. If you have children like me and Shlee, you'll be looking forward to going back to work tomorrow. Welcome to FPL the Onion. This show is about Fantasy Premier League, and listening to it will make you better at FPL, guaranteed. And hopefully you might enjoy it a bit more too. If you find yourself always behind Steve in the Work Mini League and he's bragging his face off about his 104 million team value and his 5.5 million low-owned midfielder's latest 11-point return. If your strategy is bringing in last week's top point scorer and you wonder why that's not working for you. If you think XGI means someone who used to be on a low-sugar diet, then this could be the place for you. Gameweek 4 finished yesterday and Gameweek 5 starts in less than 24 hours. Thanks for tuning in. Any questions, please put them in the comments below and we will come back to you with our thoughts as soon as we can. Shlee, or Ash as many people call him, is a brilliant, sensible and very consistent FPL player and brings the smarts to this podcast. He's the perfect foil for me, the yin to my yang. Happy Monday, Mr. Shlee. How are you doing?
Nice, Nick. Nice. Yeah, good. Thanks. Weird to be on the other side of the intro, responding to how things are going. But yeah, good. We were just saying off air before we came on how tiring the bank holiday weekend's been. But yeah, productive, good family time. But yeah, partly also going back to work will be quite relaxing compared to running around looking after the kids in the sunshine.
Yes, indeed. And as we were saying as well, only about a week to go, I think, until our 7-year-old goes back to school. We shall miss him, but it'd be nice to get a bit more quiet time around that.
Yeah, a bit of free time back. Yeah. Good weekend so far for you as well. Well, it's almost over, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it is pretty much over. But yeah, it was okay. Although FPL kind of was pretty middling for me. You had a good weekend, so I'm sure that helped a lot. So I'm looking forward to chatting through it tonight.
Yep, cool. We are probably aiming for a shorter episode than last week for sure. Obviously, being the longest one, but we'll see. You got a couple of conundrums and some mid-price midfielder stats to bring, which will be interesting to chat over. But what is your guess of the episode length?
I am going to say 1 hour 2 minutes.
Okay, I am going 1 hour 5. And I chuckled because I thought in the tone you were about to say exactly the same as me, but I'm going to go with that.
I also laugh because anytime anyone's been, with obviously a new feature, if you can call it that, but every time people make me guess first and then go longer, so they obviously know I'm a talker.
We should mix up the order and do the ABBA protocol, like penalties, to keep it psychologically sound.
So you're talking about the band.
Yeah, right, we'll move on to Mini League, but yeah, please join our league. I think I forgot to read out the code last week. It's on the screen though, TRLU7M. We still have 37 in the league, but we do have a new leader. Let's move on to that. Craig Dyer, who is a friend from work who I know well. Congrats, Craig, if you watch him. Fat Ronaldo's haircut, his outfit, 93 points this week, which on another screen I've got Captain Haaland, Odegaard in there, St. Maximan, who, if he's got this injury, he will be a mega differential because people won't be bringing him in. Trent, James, Alisson with a clean sheet, 93 points, decent, very decent. And he had Odegaard's last week, 16 points, so he has rocketed to the top of the league.
The Haaland captaincy looks so blatantly obvious now after those ridiculous goals, especially the third one where he just looked like maybe the second coming of the Fat Ronaldo, except taller, but just absolutely ridiculous. And yet it was Palace, and you just felt like Palace were going to keep it tight. They obviously went 2-0 up, which probably just was probably the worst thing that could happen for people who didn't captain Haaland. And obviously Salah looked so obvious, and so there's a bit of variance there. But the other, I guess, St. Maximum as well. Anybody who has returns from St. Max, I'm always very jealous. And then he obviously gets injured and comes out of the team for 6 weeks. But he's just unplayable on his day, isn't he?
Yeah. I doubt it'll be one of those moments where I remember it in 6 months where I was, but certainly because it was only a few days ago, I remember pretty vividly being out in the garden, cutting the lawn and hearing you just hear the goal flashes go off on your phone. You're like, oh, please be Liverpool, because and Salah captain, and Diaz versus Robertson seemed to be quite a big swing this week. And I saw like 1-0 ball, 1-0 to Liverpool, and it was Diaz. I was like, brilliant. And I think then it was 2-0, and then I think the next goals that went in was 2-0 to Palace. And it's just like, oh geez, double blimmin' City defence, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then obviously everything changed, but it was certainly a fun Saturday, wasn't it? I mean, all my players played on the Saturday, so seeing loads of goals flying was good.
Yeah, no, you had a good week.
Yeah, decent week. So I'm up to 6th. You're down in 22nd. Mark Bleakley there with a 95. He had a good week last week. So yeah, it's pretty tight at the top. But I mean, I don't know, where actually is he in the world? 46k. So he's having a great start.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, it's funny because it feels like a lot of teams are similar, and obviously you've got people with ridiculous ownerships, but captaincy does seem to be.
It's one way to get the differential, isn't it? For
a
sure.
Really
but
good way to differential, yeah.
But it is kind of good that Craig's team is not a Twitter template. St. Max, he's got Trippier, he's got Rashford still. That is a pretty bold team. So see if he can keep it up. So it's kind of refreshing, given the Twitter community sort of chat this week that everyone's getting a bit frustrated and everyone in the top million's got the same team, and to break into that, you can't really, because people are burning transfers in the top 1 mil, so they're obviously completely happy with their team. It is quite a tricky sort of mechanic, isn't it, going on?
Yeah, it's very strange. I can't figure out what the difference is from this season to last, but it does feel very strange that people aren't making transfers. Even my own team, we'll see later, there are transfers I can make. I don't really like any of them, and probably the best option is either to not make any, even though I've got 2, or just to do a kind of one week punt. And I think that's the way I'm leaning. But have you had to think about why it is that no one can make transfers? Is it just because the players and the template is performing? They are performing so well.
Yeah, I think it's that they have underpriced some assets, and the top 6, top 8 from last season have really good fixtures, and you can get 2 to 3 from each of those. And I suppose that they are performing. Although Arsenal have had great fixtures, Arteta wasn't great last season, but he seems to have got a tune out of them this season. They're doing really well, as are for the most part City. Obviously Liverpool not so much, but last week was a very good performance. So the points are coming in, and why would you change it? I mean, people that got on with Brighton and Rodrigo and people like that are going to be, maybe a top 100k rather than top 500k. But I think most people, that went with the Twitter template are probably pretty happy with the rank. I mean, did you see the stat FPL Salah? He posts quite a lot with clean sheet odds and anytime scorer odds each week. He hasn't made any transfer this season, and he's top 50k, I think.
Yeah, and I was listening to The Wire before this. They put one out today, and they were saying he hasn't made a transfer, and he's still not planning on making one this week.
Yeah, he's going to burn for the 3rd week running. Crazy.
Yeah.
But you look at his team, and he just started with the perfect template. He's got Diaz rather than Robertson. I think he had Reed and Andreas, which maybe that's not the difference this year, but that is the perfect sort of first and second bench that he seemed to have started with. So
did he? I wanted to go and look up his team because I actually listened to. I can't remember what channel he was on, but was he on Andy's channel in pre-season? But
I think he's on Hub. He goes on Hub quite a bit.
Was he on the Hub? But yeah, I remember listening to him pre-season, so I was really interested to see where he went with his team and why his team was so different from mine, obviously. But what an incredible start to be burning transfers like that. It's amazing, isn't it? Has he got Gross or Rodrigo or anyone like that?
I think from memory, his differential, if you can call it that, like his 10th and 11th man are Sanchez and Gross. I think that's how he's done it.
Okay, fine. Well, there you go. Very, very nice.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to how we did last week. So as per this previous slide, 77 for me. I didn't make a transfer. I was very happy / fortunate for Gabriel to do his thing, ruining the Arsenal clean sheet for everybody, and then getting a stabbing it in pretty much on the goal line. Ben Mee as a punt did not work out a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think I kind of discussed it on the pod, but certainly in my head it was a very 51-49 between him and Dunk, and it was 0.2 of a point on rate my team and all this sort of marginal stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to go with me. I think on paper their fixtures were better, but that has not worked out at all. Frustratingly done with another clean sheet. So that would have definitely been a way to really climb for me.
Yeah.
But otherwise it was fairly standard. I mean, my other differentials are double City defence. That did not work out, obviously. And I suppose my bench order / who I played kind of worked out. But yeah, vice captain on Jesus, I guess I got that the right way around, but I didn't have it on Haaland. Yeah, given the Palace complexity, in hindsight, wasn't that tricky a fixture.
No, it just would have been enormous, wouldn't it, to captain Haaland for anyone, even if you had a 50-point week. If people like you with a 77-point week could have been huge. I do think captaincy is probably the best way to climb, and yet each week you kind of, especially you think where we were coming into the last game week with Bournemouth at home, and I was sitting here saying I think Liverpool are going to absolutely stuff them. I think I said it was going to be 6. I thought it was going to be 6 or something like that. I didn't think it'd be 9, but it's just always terrifying to go against that, wouldn't it? And yet, the people who did. My brother went for Haaland over Salah, and he was absolutely loving it. So, the other thing for you, I think, as well, and this again is the things change so quickly, don't they, in FPL? But obviously, Liverpool lost their last game. Luis Diaz didn't do anything, and yet, obviously, with a nice fixture up next, you thought, right, you weren't looking at taking him out, him or Trent, but to come away with two-headed goals for Diaz is amazing for owners, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. The result before that, wasn't it the 2-2? Oh no, of course, yeah, United. Sorry, yeah, no, Fulham was 2-2. Yeah, and then Palace 1-0, and then of course United. Yeah, exactly. So maybe again in hindsight, looking at that, Salah was off form. Why are we captaining him? But I mean, Andy had a good one on his knee-jerk stream. If you knew it was going to be 9-0, would you have triple captained Salah?
Yeah.
Not just captain, but you think, well, he's going to get at least 3 returns, maybe 4 returns. Okay, it's only a single game week, but it's pretty borderline, isn't it? But for him to have got nothing, maybe it's
no. If you told me it was 9-0, I don't know whether I would have thought to immediately triple captain, but I would have guessed that he would have got at least 3 or 4 returns in that.
Yeah,
because you think maybe one would be a penalty, you might get an assist out of 9 goals, etc., etc. But it's just for owners of a captain, it's just hugely unlucky, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Although there are a lot of people saying he is playing much wider and he's Trent's coming inside and then crossing, etc. And I think when Núñez gets back, I think he might get more assists, but I don't know whether he is going to be this. He's certainly not going to be a 300-point player this season, I don't think. And he just looks a lot happier as well. Like he was missing chances and then laughing.
Mm-hmm, right. I didn't see that.
I just think with Mane gone, I do think it changes him a little bit. I don't think he's quite as driven as hungry. I think he and Mane had a bit of had quite a lot of competition to see who was going to do the best in that team.
Yeah, it's definitely one to watch. I mean, I'm delighted that return came in, but a lot of people are saying, oh well, it's obviously now it's Diaz over Robertson, but I mean Robertson was only 5 points behind. And everyone's sort of maybe focusing on Trent doing amazing stuff, but Robertson, they could easily keep a few clean sheets and struggle, with 0-0s, 1-0 or something. I mean, the fixtures coming up are pretty tricky, so I'm still a bit wary of that. As in, I think there might be something in the don't keep Salah for too long idea. Yeah, Newcastle, and then it gets a bit tricky. We've said them with Everton derby, Chelsea away, Arsenal away coming up, City. There's some tricky ones in the next 8.
Yeah, and maybe not a load of goals. It might actually be. I don't know. You wouldn't take. I don't think I'd take Trent out because I think there are quite a few clean sheets in there. But I don't think there are going to be that many goals. You look at. I mean, maybe Chelsea defense will have sorted themselves out by that time. They'll have Fofana. They might have got some people back from injury. I know Kovacic is back, which will be big for their defense. But Wolves are very tight. Brighton have got a good defense. Arsenal are. Obviously didn't look that great on the weekend defensively, but they've been pretty good so far. I think Ramsdale's hardly made any saves, which owners are a bit annoyed about, but it just shows how good their defense is. Then City, You could take Salah out on a wild card and then plan to bring him back, couldn't you? Or you could take him out and then bring him back on a wild card. But that might be something that I could look at. I mean, I don't want to go too crazy to try and climb the ranks, but he is a lot of money tied up there, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that 9-0's given a bit of a reprieve. I think Liverpool assets are probably not ones to budge this week, but I think it's quite good in a way that there's a couple of dodgy fixtures there just to see what happens. Because if they don't do great against Everton and Wolves, then I think I would probably ditch one of the trio.
Yeah, and I was listening, as I say, I was listening to Late Riser and Zoff talking about who to captain this week, and I think they're both on Salah, and they're saying he's going to be angry and he didn't get anything in that game, and
yeah, okay,
with Newcastle up next. But I'm just looking at the fact that City have got Forest next, because I wouldn't want to take Salah out before Newcastle, and I do think I'd probably be too scared to do that, but I do need some cash from somewhere. I think if I'm going to make some transfers, and I don't really want to take Cancelo out before Forest. I know people are saying Cancelo is not doing what he was doing last season. I'm not getting rid of Trent or James. It's difficult to find a cash cow, really, but I don't know. We'll chat about that later. Sorry, I've overrun you talking about your game week.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We did it last week, didn't we? And I suppose kind of apologies to anyone looking through last week's timestamps, and it was a bit of a free for all, wasn't it? And we joked that during the Spurs Wolves roundup, we covered everything from Haaland to Salah and all sorts. But sort of the discussions come in, don't they?
I think it's my brain this season in FPL. I am a little bit lost at the moment as to which way to play it, really. But I think my season didn't really get going last season until like game week 6 as well. I can't remember where I was ranked, but I don't think it was 2.5 million. But it's just a strange season.
I think in general, though, with the sort of overall game plan at the moment, I get it's frustrating. Just on people that are not happy with their rank and trying to push up and think, well, how can I do that? How can I differentiate? Maybe easy for me to say, given I'm kind of in that top 1 mil and feeling kind of safe in there and hopefully not going to drop too much, but I also want to rise as well. I just think it's one of those where you kind of maybe have to treat the game as a bit of a boring one for another couple of game weeks, and then hopefully things will mix itself up a bit, which is really rubbish because it's almost been a bit boring for a few weeks, isn't it? But I think as things come in fits and spurts a bit, it will hopefully be quite exciting in a few weeks. Just got to ride out a little bit. I don't know, or are you already getting a bit frustrated and think, well, I want to roll the dice and actually try and make some fun here, but obviously the risk is it goes wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think I'm ready yet to do anything crazy like take Salah out. So I'm probably, and I'm not suggesting anybody does that before Newcastle, especially because I think they've got some injuries. I think Gamerish is out, and
I saw that he didn't play. It's interesting because he's been great, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think apparently they're, Wire was saying again, their defense has given up as many big chances as Leicester, or I think one less than Leicester. So that's quite interesting because you would have thought their defense has been a bit stronger than that. But I think Pope has had a couple of really, really good games where he's made a lot of saves. So you can't forget that he's a fantastic keeper. But I don't know. I don't think I will take Salah out this week at all. It was interesting because I hadn't really considered it. But to go to De Bruyne for that Forest game might be interesting. De Bruyne obviously didn't get any returns either against Palace in with 4 goals, so he could be due something as well. But Salah, I think he's going to be hungry again, isn't he? After not getting anything in that 9-0. So my game week was again pretty middling. Really disappointed. The biggest disappointment I think this game week was losing Sarr's clean sheet to sent Max Weldy goal in literally the last minute. I just was watching that tick on. I was painting at the time, not anything artistic. I was painting walls, and I just kept checking my phone. And I was like, no updates from that Wolves Newcastle game other than the goal, but the goal for Wolves. And so I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to get a couple of bonus points, and then I just saw the St. Max goal pop up, and I was pretty devastated by that, to be honest, because he's very low owned, Sarr, and he obviously had that penalty save and the huge haul against Fulham a couple of game weeks ago. But I benched him last week for Ward. Ward got me 1 point,
Yeah, that's got to be devastating for you. You know, while you're actually painting a portrait of Jose Sarr and you concede that.
Exactly. I just got the red paint out and just ruined it at the end. Another one in the skip. But yeah, then I don't know what else was the story of my game week. I mean, I'm every game week I'm playing, one of Andreas Bailey or Nico Williams. I was kind of umming and ahhing a lot over Andreas versus Bailey. Went for Bailey. He was benched, as Tom Harris predicted that he would be. Gerrard, I don't know what he's playing at. He needs Bailey in that team if he's got a chance of keeping his job, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's in trouble, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in big trouble. I might even keep Bailey even this week. I think a lot of people are going to sell him. I've lost money on him now anyway. I think he's 4.8, so I've lost 0.2 on him anyway. I might just keep him because when they get a new manager in, I reckon he'll be back in the team.
Yeah, and as we said last week, their fixtures do get good after a bit, don't they? I'll pull them up again. But yeah, ride it out for 3 weeks and then Southampton, Leeds, Forest in a 3-game burst would be pretty good.
But yeah, and as long as I've got, and I think this is a huge difference between the way I play it FPL now versus the way I used to play it. If I'd had a play like Bailey in game week 1 or game week 2, a couple of seasons ago, he'd have been straight out of my team. I'd have been taking hits to take him out. Whereas now, when I look at my team for the next week, I'm like, well, I don't really need to play him. I can get someone else in. So I'm losing value left, right, and center. My team value is pretty bad for this stage of the season, but I just don't feel the need to just get him out of the team if I've got decent options. Pereira's got a decent fixture this week, so I might, he's at home to Brighton and Fulham are better at home, so I might just play him and bench Bailey. And I think the one issue I've obviously got this week is I was very surprised Zinchenko didn't play. That was pretty annoying when a lot of other people have, including you, obviously, Shlee, have a different Arsenal defender. Zinchenko was my transfer in last week and got me a clean sheet, but obviously Perisic got a decent score last week and got another decent score this week, so he could have been there instead of Zinchenko, which is pretty annoying. But yeah, these are the margins, right? As in, no one could have predicted Zinchenko was going to get injured, so I'm just kind of on the side of it at the moment.
I think the way I would summarize your team is that you've had some good returns from some that your kind of differentials compared to the template, but not mega ones. Like, Kulu with a 6 is welcome, but that wasn't a 14. And Zinchenko's 6 last week was welcome, but then 0 this week. And missing his 12 in game week 1, you've sort of had bits, and it probably feels like one step forward, one step back.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what it feels like. That's why things like that Sarr clean sheet could have been so big. But it's another rank drop. Again, it only takes like one big week. I think I'm something like 30 or 40 points behind you, which obviously is a lot. But if I pick the right captain one week, like even this week, that would have been like a 14-point swing just on the captaincy. So as long as if I'm picking the same captain as you every week, though, then that I'm not going to make it up on that. But it wasn't disastrous, but not great either.
Yeah, fair. I think you dropped about 200k or something. So yeah, I mean that reflects you got 63 the average there for the whole game, 62 in the top left. So sounds about right. Yeah. Just I just pulled up the XG for this week. A couple of noticeable things, because you were saying, what was it in the Wolves Newcastle game? Newcastle bit leaky. They actually only conceded 0.7 of an XG in that, but maybe that was a bit more. The fact Wolves are pretty impotent up front.
Exactly, it is Wolves.
If they come up against decent Liverpool, that might be a bit different. And also just on Kulu, I mean, playing. I suppose in a way, playing Forest, I don't know, maybe we'll see what City do to them, but I think a lot of people may be thinking that could have been a bit more than the 2-0, and it was only 1.6 from Spurs XG. So, again, Kulu, he's in a good team. They're probably going to be in Champions League positions, but are they absolutely rampant up front? I don't think they are yet.
No, and I think also you think that the time last season when Son in particular really kicked on and Spurs were hitting people on the break, and every highlight you saw of their goals seemed to be a goal on the break.
Mm-hmm.
They've done that thing where, again, they've bought really well in the summer. Everybody sees them now as a really strong team and very likely to get into the top 4 again. And so I don't think teams are just they're not coming out thinking, well, we'll try and beat Spurs. Like, I think when Son got that hat trick last season, was it 3 he got against Villa? I think Villa showed up thinking, well, we'll beat Spurs today, or we've got a good chance of beating them. So I think Spurs are going to win a lot of games. I'm now not convinced that they're going to absolutely blow teams away. I think Kane is probably the best asset to have there, and yet he's 11.5 million. So, or 11.4 now. But I'm thinking of I am a bit worried about Kulusevski, but he's done just about enough to stick around, I think. But I am looking to
wavering a bit. Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because if you have Mount or someone a bit clearer, it would be an easy sell. But he's, as I say, sort of middle ground, and you don't want to take him out at the wrong time. I suppose West Ham is not a bad time to take him out if you were going to. So I guess that's why you're tempted.
Exactly, and they've got Fulham after that, which I don't think now looks quite as juicy a fixture as it did at the start of the season, because I think Fulham are going toe to toe with people. But then, as I've just said, that might be good for Spurs, because if Fulham try and go toe to toe, they might leave space. I mean, Kula is a fantastic player. I just think he's so much more likely to get assists than he is goals. He scored some brilliant goals last season after they brought him in, which I think made him outperform his XG quite a lot and bumped his points up a lot. But if there are midfielders who are getting into goal scoring positions and putting up better XG, then maybe I'm better off having those guys. So, and some of them are cheaper than him as well. So,
yeah, it's a tricky one. That's definitely a cash cow option, isn't it?
Yeah, I think on reflection, it remains to be seen. He may still do really well, and he is, I think, keeping up with Luis Diaz in terms of points. But be interesting to see over the season. I wonder if they just slightly overpriced Kulusevski. I wonder if he should have been sort of 7.5. So obviously I've overpaid by 0.7 for him, because I got him for 8.2. So not great.
Do you want to do the analysis next, or look at our teams? Don't
mind. You mean as in look at our teams for next week, or
teams next week, and then do your table, or should we do the table now?
Let's look at your team for next week first, and then we'll see what you're thinking.
Okay, cut down episode this week, given I'm sure most people are aware, but Tuesday deadline tomorrow, so we squeeze this one into an unusual Monday night. So my team for next week is looking like this. That's my best team. I have 2 free transfers and 0 in the bank, and obviously rolled last week, thinking that some moves this week would be easier than last week. So the starting 11 is decent, but I am playing Andreas, but he's at home, and Fulham at Craven Cottage, as we said, have been really good, but then they are playing Brighton, who could come out with some mad formation thing that nullifies Fulham. And so I've got, I don't know, sort of 5-ish transfers I've written down there, and a lot of other sort of permutations, combinations. I could do 1 or 2 or 3 of those in the list. So first one is to get Brighton coverage by getting rid of Ederson to Sanchez. That obviously frees up money, but it just feels a bit wrong to get rid of a double City that has not been performing, but what is it, they've conceded 2 goals from 0.1 XG or whatever the stat is, and surely, unless it was Bournemouth, Forest is the next best thing. Surely Forest are not going to score there, so I'm a bit reluctant to do that, but the cash would be good. Mead Dunk seems the one I'm probably most tempted by. Me's obviously on the bench, so I would probably bench Andreas with doing that. Maybe a bit of a I don't know what the word is, but annoyance that I didn't get Dunk before, and so maybe I'm slightly more swayed by that to sort of right the wrongs of 2 game weeks ago. So I've got to be maybe a bit careful that is the right option. But it's only at 4.5. Dunk, I think, is the best option. I can't get Sleever, obviously, because triple Arsenal already. Third on the list there is me to Walker and the Ederson move above. That is basically a way of freeing up cash, because Walker is cheaper than Ederson. And I can still get Brighton coverage like that, but that does use 2 free transfers. And then the next one is to get Perisic, which I have gone off a little bit. I know he was flavor of the week last week, but it was, that 12-point week in a low-scoring week, and maybe that was slightly over-elevating his sort of well, not his performance, because I was listening to Above Average FPL. They summed up really nicely, just saying he just makes the game look so easy. He's just very slick to look at and watch. But his minutes still a bit of an issue. I know he came off early, but I think that's a bit of a tricky one. And the only way I can do that, unless I got rid of Trent, is to downgrade Cancelo. That would interestingly allow me to do Archer to Mitrovic, but then I would have a benching headache. So I think I've gone off Perisic, if I'm honest. And then the last one is just to keep it as it is and play Andreas and do Bailey to a 4.4 and save a bit of money and not rock the boat too much. So
interesting.
Those
Yeah,
I think
Cancelo, even though he's not, I think I've said this, even though he's not doing what we expected of him, I just don't feel comfortable taking him out before Forest at home.
Agreed.
Because even if he just does what he did, I can't remember what the fixture was, but even if he does what he did in game week 2, where he just kind of gets like a fantasy assist, he's getting 11, 12 points, isn't he? Yes, they could lose the clean sheet, and I think you'd be super annoyed then that you had double City again, and then I think we'd probably all be looking to get rid of Cancelo the week after, but I just don't feel like it. It feels a little bit like people taking Trent out before Bournemouth. Obviously Trent hadn't done anything this season. His stats were probably all. I think actually he was still putting a lot of key passes in and crosses and everything. So maybe his stats were better than Cancelo's, but it kind of feels like that. And so I don't love that as the cash cow. And I just think Perisic, everyone was really excited, like I was for Kulu about that Forest fixture. Didn't really happen. Obviously, he got the clean sheet again, which is nice. And I think Spurs defense is. They're going to get more clean sheets, I think, than Perisic is going to get returns, it looks like to me. I know it's still super early days, but I listened to the Above Average FPL pod as well. They've grown massively recently, haven't they? I think it's good when they do that reaction stream. It's a good thing to listen to when there's not a lot else on. But they were saying that he isn't bombing on as much as they thought or as much as he did in the game before. So he started to look tired. So I don't know. Again, it's so funny, isn't it, how quickly things change, because everyone was so afraid of that Forest game.
Yeah.
Thinking he was going to get like a 15, 18 pointer or something, and it didn't happen. But I think Dunk is weird, because I look at Andreas and your team and think, I don't see Fulham getting anything against Brighton. And then I see you bringing in Dunk and think, I reckon Brighton are going to score. I reckon Fulham are going to score against Brighton. It's so funny, isn't it? But if there's any team that can keep kind of Mitrovic quiet, it's a team of players like Dunk in it, isn't
exactly.
it? So,
Dunk, Webster, and who's the other guy at the back? I can't remember, but they're all pretty tall and physical, aren't they?
Is Veltman playing wing?
Yeah.
Is Veltman playing at the back?
No, it's Gross and Trossard, isn't it? I think
right.
doing the wing backs in their weird formation. Yeah.
That's right.
But
I definitely prefer Dunk. It was interesting Veltman Rose, isn't it? I think he's good for bonus, but I just can see Dunk getting a couple of headed goals, which are huge, aren't they? But yes, I think this is the really difficult thing about this season. This is why you're seeing so many people burn transfers, is because at the start of the season, when people haven't got much cash in the bank, you're trying to free up cash by downgrading someone. And yet you can't think of anybody to downgrade, or you don't want to downgrade anyone, because as we say, we've basically got the top six. You've got all players in the top 6 teams in our sides. And so, you don't want to take Cancelo out before Forest, and you don't want to take Trent out before Bournemouth. And it's very difficult to find any money to do anything meaningful, isn't it? That's why, you and I have still got Bailey in our squad.
Yeah.
Because you can't, and that's the other thing. If you've got somebody like Bailey in, and this is the other thing, I think it's probably a good lesson for building a squad for next season is, or even for wildcarding, what happens if that 5 million midfielder becomes a problem? Because you need a lot of money to get up to something decent.
Yeah.
And where are you getting that money from? So, I don't know. I mean, I guess you've got 2 free, so you've got to do something. What are you most leaning towards out of your choices?
The second one, me to Dunk.
Yeah. Yeah, and then what, you'd bench Andreas, would you?
Yeah. Which does, though, just as I was speaking about it, slightly stink of what I did when I bought in Ben Mee, because that was also an Andreas Pereira at home fixture game week. It was 2 game weeks ago, and I had a little bit of, Mee's the new player in my team, I need to play him over Andreas, and Mee got 0 and Andreas got 8. So I've got to be confident that Dunk is going to get better than Andreas. Otherwise, I should probably do option number 5, which is just get rid of the Bailey problem and stick with Andreas, and me can wait for another day.
Well, the most likely thing probably that happens between, I haven't seen the clean sheet odds, but probably the most likely thing that happens between Brighton and Fulham is that they both concede, isn't it? And so
maybe
I think Bailey to Soumare. If you're never planning on playing Bailey again, then you might as well get some cash for that position. But then your bench is pretty weak then, isn't it? Because then it is basically just Andreas or Ben Mee, and then you've got to, we can't. I guess Bailey's going to continue to get minutes, and he may get the odd unexpected return. But so if you bring Soumare in, I'm guessing he's not playing, is he? 4.4.
He started last week, I think, but I think that was due to Tielemans came in last minute. They got a few problems, I think, at that I double pivot. It's not what's his name who scored in the first game, is 5 mil, is it? But he did start this week, but he hasn't always been starting. I think he got like 60 minutes and then came off. So
right,
yeah, he's probably not good for points.
No, he's not. You're never going to want to put him in the team, are you? So
no, sorry. As in, I don't think he's going to always get ones either. He might get a few zeros.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing. You're in a very, very similar boat to me. It's very, very difficult to know what to do.
Yeah, I guess mine's slightly easier because I am probably only focused on the back, the defence and the goalies. I don't think I'm probably going to move midfielders, where I think there's probably less choice in the defence. So yeah, I've probably only got 6 sort of options in my head and 6 sort of players, where you've got quite a few people you could go to.
I think the other thing for you as well is because you've already got 3 City, it's much more difficult to have that kind of like City versus Forest punt. You'd have to take out Edison or Cancelo, really, wouldn't you, to do a...
Yeah, like Gundo or Bernardo Silva or something. Yeah, exactly. I just haven't got the money to do it. I'd have to take out Cancelo. Yeah, so maybe in a way that makes it easy. I don't think moving the money around for that is a good idea at all.
No, fair enough. But do you quite like that Newcastle fixture then for Liverpool?
I don't know. I'm really in terms of captaincy. Salah versus Haaland.
No, even in terms of Luis Diaz.
Oh right. I'm not strong opinion enough to think of getting rid of Diaz as a cash cow. No way.
But even just as like because this is the thing. You see, we'll get to mine in a minute. But if your Luis Diaz is my Kulusevski, I know Newcastle at home is slightly better than West Ham, although West Ham have had a pretty terrible start and Spurs haven't. But I am thinking of doing Kulusevski to Gundogan just for 1 week almost.
Yeah, that's fair.
So because if the alternative is burning a transfer, I think it's probably worth just having a little bet on Gundogan, given that he didn't start the last game and he got like 23 minutes or something, and he can go off in any game, can't he? And people are saying that Haaland is helpful to him because he's taking the defenders out and then leaving it for Gundo to run in behind.
Yeah, I suppose maybe the way of phrasing that was, if I didn't have double defence and I didn't have any other fires, which is kind of your position, would I look at Diaz to Gundo for 1 week? I don't know. It seems, maybe this is maybe where we differ a little bit, my kind of cautious, more boring approach coming through, but that just seems really flary for 1 week. But then that's obviously the definition of 1 week punt, and you can always get rid and change it. But yeah, he got rested last week. We've talked about him getting in the box so much and playing almost as a second striker when he is playing. But then I kind of also look back to last week and think Haaland is just hogging the chances. Is he actually really going to be able to? Well, unless Haaland obviously doesn't start, maybe he would be quite good. Yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it? Because I mean, I guess if he doesn't start, he's probably likely to play Alvarez, but he hasn't played his false 9 yet this season. Maybe they've moved away from that. Gundogan, given that he didn't start, would probably be a good candidate for that. But yeah, I guess the only issue is what it means is because if I'm going to burn a transfer, it means for the next week I've got 2 free again, but I don't have Kulu anymore, and they've obviously got Fulham. So I almost, if I want Kulu back, I just can't see me going back to Kulu, to be honest. I think it's almost like it's a 1 week punt, but I'm probably not going back there.
Yeah. Has Kulu changed price at all since you've had him?
No, he hasn't changed price since I had him. I think he's dropping though, as in like his price is falling. I don't know whether it'll fall before the deadline, but
I mean, that is quite a fun way to play, moving like an 8 mil midfielder around. But if you bought him back
yeah.
for Fulham or kept him for Fulham, well, game week 7 with a City fixture, that's a good excuse to get rid again, isn't it? So you are going to focus your transfers on that position, which maybe isn't the healthiest thing. Because if suddenly the template does break, Jesus gets an injury or a red or something.
Yeah, but I think I'm feeling mentally quite close to wildcarding anyway.
Are you?
Yeah, not necessarily. I'm not going to wildcard just because I've had a bad start, but I just think when I looked at the fixtures at the start of the season, I did think I'd probably be wildcarding around game week 7 or game week 8. You can get in Newcastle players for Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford. A few teams fixtures kind of stiffen up a bit. Obviously Liverpool stiffen up, City a little bit as well. Although again, I'm not advocating taking out loads of Liverpool or City. But I think I'm going to need to do something about I'm going to have to do something about Salah in goal, because in 7 and 8 it gets Liverpool away, then City at home, then Chelsea after in game week 10. So I've got a few different fires that I need to put out in the next few weeks. So that's why I quite like the 1 week punt, because I don't really want to be holding 2 free transfers forever, given that I'm probably going to wildcard soon. So
yeah, unless Ward keeps his place, and you could delay that a little bit. But yeah, Ward. Sar's an interesting point of wildcarding early. Well, earlier than myself, probably.
Yeah, and I again, even if they were playing Villa at home, I don't expect Leicester to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, they are leaky, aren't they?
Yeah, I think. I mean, interestingly, just looking at Brighton, I didn't realise in 9 and 10 they got Liverpool and Tottenham. That's not great, and then they've got City and Chelsea in 13 and 14 as well. So Brighton's fixtures really turn, don't they? Kind of.
Yep.
9 and 10, you'd want to get off their defenders on a wild card in 8 then, probably, wouldn't you? Or you just one week them out.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gross is what now, 5.8, but Trossard is 6.5. So I think 6.5 still you could hold them through that, but that is quite a lot compared to Gross to be keeping. So can see why many people are going for them.
But then, the next, it's a shame on Brighton. I feel like I've missed the boat on Brighton. I feel like I've missed the boat on Leeds. I know they've still got good next 3. That's the other thing, and that's the other thing I could do with my moves is just bring in Brighton and Leeds for the next 3, and then wildcard them out again. Leeds fixtures stay pretty good for a little while, don't they? But
yeah. Okay, let's move on to your team. I'm just going to quickly check while I didn't have the numbers in my head what rate my team says of Dunk versus Andreas, but yeah, you start describing this.
Cool. Yeah. So very similar to you in that I guess probably again quite a lot depends on Zinchenko's fitness. If we get team news that he's fit, I think it makes it all more difficult. If he's not fit, I probably will use 2 of my free transfers, I would think. I may even take a -4 if Zinchenko's not fit. But I think if he is fit and he is going to play it, it's a bit like with your situation where it's very difficult to see a route in terms of transfers that I actually feel very confident with, because again, even though I haven't started brilliantly, I do like this team generally. I like the players, and I think they've still got good fixtures, and I still believe that they're going to perform. Obviously the players thinking up the team is Bailey, Bailey, Andreas, and Nico Williams. So, but I think this might be showing. Is this showing last week's team, Shlee? I think. Yeah, I think this is last week's. But no worries.
Oh no, hang on a minute. Let me just sort that out. Yeah, good shout. I
haven't made any transfers, but the only difference this week is I've got Andreas playing against Brighton instead of Bailey, obviously, who didn't start again. But
pause. Right, we're back, Nick. Correct images.
There you go. Seamless. Thank you for that, Shlee. Yeah. So just picking this up, I don't know where it quite stopped, but very difficult to know what to do. Shlee, I think this. I don't have Luis Diaz in my team, do I? So this isn't me. I don't know who this is. This must be. Is this Tom's team?
Don't know. Is it Bob's down the road? I'm not quite sure what's happened. Hang on, let's sort this out.
we to talk through this one?
Okay, here we are. Correct team. Not broadband issues this week. Just posting random people's team that might be on my phone. So this is yours, Nick.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. At least it was an FPL screenshot, and not anything we weren't able to put online, Shlee. So I should have checked it before we unpaused again. But yeah, two incorrect teams. Third time's a charm. This is in fact my actual team. Yeah, I actually like the other team you showed, so I'll have that one instead. If only it were like that. But yeah, so Zinchenko obviously yellow flagged. Hopefully we get some team news on that. And then yeah, my moves potentially. So I've looked at a potential -4, which is Kulusevski being the cash cow down to Odegaard's. That would kind of give me back my 3 Arsenal attack, because the plan is to take Zinchenko out for Perisic potentially. And then Bailey up to, so it's a bit of a combination here. I don't think I can afford now, after the price changes last night, I can't afford Odegaard and Rodrigo for Kulusevski and Bailey, but I can afford Odegaard and Gross, and I think I can afford, I think Gundo is in this list just because I don't think it would be a kind of Gundo and another. It would be just Kulusevski just to Gundogan. So I'm not sure the Gundogan and Gross works. I don't think it's enough cash, and certainly not to do Perisic at the same time. So the -4, which is 3 transfers, which I know does work, is Zinchenko to Perisic, Kulusevski to Odegaard, and then Bailey to Gross. And I do quite like that. I think when I messaged that to you, Shlee, you were saying you thought that was an upgrade in all positions, but I do think Kulusevski is a good player. I think he is a better player than Odegaard or Gross, and I don't know. It's just so interesting, isn't it? Because they've obviously done so well against him, and I could have had any of those and would be in a much better position. But I think if at the start of the season you'd have put Kula up against any of them, you'd have said he's gonna outscore them. And I think, you know, we've still only had 4 game weeks. The chances are he's going to still outscore them over the season. But obviously Brighton are playing fantastically well. Still got some decent fixtures for the next few. Odegaard's playing that, you know, he's playing the opposite of Xhaka in that he's playing the kind of inside right channel at Arsenal. He's playing inside Saka, and that's why people think that he's doing so well and Saka's not. So I think he is, you know, Odegaard is a great option. He's obviously a much better player than Xhaka. There was a time when he was at Madrid when he moved to Madrid, where people thought he was kind of the next big thing. So we know he's got talent. I think he probably does. I think he carries on Odegaard. I do like him as an option, but I think obviously I can have. He went up. I think he went up in price last night, didn't he? So
Odegaard did.
Yeah, Odegaard. I think he's 6.6 now. But yeah, there's no. If Zinchenko's fit, there's no real reason to take him out, because actually he could be in a couple of weeks. He could be playing where Xhaka's playing now, couldn't he? And then suddenly you're like, well, he's a defender playing in Odegaard's position on the left, and he's looked very, very good in his games. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I was just jotting down a few thoughts there, because there's quite a lot springing to mind. Sorry, I'm just doing some work or something. I don't know. The Arsenal triple up is exciting, but it's just one of those. Again, it maybe just comes back to I hate to say that I'm sort of really enjoying this part of the season when it is a bit dull and boring and it's all template, but that is, I think, more in my nature than yours, so maybe I'm enjoying it more than you. But my thought, sorry, I'm going somewhere with this, in that the Arsenal defence you would lose. Do you not think that Zinchenko to Saliba is not should be in your thoughts a little bit?
Maybe, but I do, and I know he's got a couple of returns, but I really want my defenders to have the chance of getting back in returns. And I know he's cheap. I think is he 4.6 now?
4.7 now.
4.7
but then what about
now,
Zinchenko
right?
to Gabriel then, or something? Because he's not a wing back.
Yeah, he's not a wing back. I mean, I think there are better. I'd rather have Perisic. I know he's more expensive than both of those, but I would rather have Perisic if I'm going to take Zinchenko out to. You're right. I guess, you know, I could not have Odegaard, and then I could go Zinchenko to Saliba or Gabriel, and probably still do Odegaard and Gross. Sorry, still do Gross and I don't know. Maybe I could then afford Rodrigo. I guess I could because he's cheaper than Odegaard, isn't he? So I could do Gross, Rodrigo, and an Arsenal defender still. Yeah, I don't hate that. It's just it feels like because Kulusevski again, if it's probably the pricing, but because he's an 8 million mid, it feels like taking him out and getting Gross and Rodrigo is I guess it is spreading the funds, isn't it? It's giving me a much more powerful option instead of Bailey, isn't it? And they've got good fixtures for the next 3. Because similarly, if Zinchenko is fit, I could just do Kulusevski and Bailey to Gross and Rodrigo, couldn't I? Which I do quite like, but obviously it's making my team much closer to all those teams, probably that a lot of those teams that are above me, isn't it? So
yeah, but I don't know. I think you can easily over-assume that, and well, I mean, those guys haven't got the top 10k stats this week, but they're probably only 30% owned in the whole game. So okay, let's be generous and say 25% above you. That's still really low.
Yeah. They're not owned by everybody above me, and some people have one, not the other, and I might, if I had both.
But I know it is crazy to almost mention that, but a lot we have seen a lot of the template is like 80 to 90%. So unfortunately, that isn't the case with Salahs and James's or whatever. But those are sort of non-negotiables in the team. It's these 4 or 5 positions to play around with, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I guess even talking about that, I quite like that. It's just I do think I go back to what I was saying earlier, where although Kulusevski's doing really well this season, and he's doing much better than Son. I can't see him getting a kind of 15-pointer. He just doesn't seem like that kind of asset at the moment. I think he got 15 points in the first game.
Yeah, it was like 13, was it, or something? Yeah. Well,
I just can't. I don't know. I just can't see him doing that too often. But then I can't really see. I would never have thought Gross was getting an 11-pointer on the weekend. So,
well, which we'll come to in a bit, and maybe that is over performance. But yeah, Brighton are different, and Gross seems to be playing this unique role as well. So there's sort of a team change and a player change there, isn't there?
Yeah, I do think Kulusevski. This is the other thing, right? I think my concern, and I said this last week, and I think Tom Martin, who we've had on the pod a couple of times, my cousin, he was saying that I'd said Gross was a trap last week. I still believe he really well could be, and so he kind of messaged me about that when Gross got his 11 points on the weekend. But I could bring in. It's perfectly plausible that I bring in Gross and Rodrigo, and they just stop scoring points. Both.
Yeah.
Like Rodrigo's already had a blank, hasn't he? Blanked against Brighton, which is I didn't expect much from him in that Brighton game, which is why I didn't rush to bring him in last week. I mean, he's 6'5" now, Rodrigo.
Yeah. Well, another observation here is I don't like any -4 really at the moment, because so many people are going to be burning. Talking about people burning transfers, a lot of people above you are not going to be doing any hits. So I think you've got to try and do it in 2, not 3.
Yeah. I'm not, and this is the thing, because I'm not so desperate to get Perisic now, although he probably will score more points in the games where we don't expect him to necessarily. But so then you start coming down to, right, well, if I want to keep Kulusevski and Zinchenko's fit, and I'm not going to rush to get Perisic, then you're like, well, what do I do? Which is why I do quite like the 1 week punt. Like, I wouldn't mind losing Kulusevski to Gundogan, because I think Gundogan's got a pretty good shout of beating Kulusevski in a one-off game. So,
but you can afford Kulu to Gundo and Zinchenko to Perisic.
Yes, I can afford that. Yeah, but I don't necessarily need to force Zinchenko out if he's fit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this is another question I had. You're definitely not doing anything tonight because you want to wait for the Zinchenko news, and there's no price changes that are going to be annoying. There's quite a few players on that screen there. I don't know who might be dropping or Horizon tonight. Well,
Yeah, I'll check it. And it's a good shout. There've been a lot of changes. I will check it, but I checked last night, and there wasn't anything that was too annoying last night. Odegaard, I think, going up. He either went up last night or the night before. But I'm kind of playing. I am playing a lot more. I am waiting for the news this season a lot more, and we'll see.
Yeah, that's fair. You've got to, I think, with that tomorrow. But that, in a way, is a bit annoying, because if Arteta, well, I suppose the worst case is he is vague.
Yeah.
Because if so, you don't want to be playing Williams. Well, you can play 3 at the back, obviously, but if any of those 3 get out, then Williams against City could be scary.
Well, the other issue, as we always know, when people come back from injury, is he might not go straight back in.
Yeah.
He might want to give him 30 minutes at the end of the game. So
True.
I might, but then I do think he makes them tick, and I think they were worse against Fulham without him. They didn't control the game as much. So I think if he is vague, I think I probably will do, because the issue with Perisic, right, is he's not guaranteed to start either.
True.
Imagine I take Zinchenko out, go to Perisic. In fact, if I hear that Zinchenko, if it's vague, I should probably just go to the other Arsenal defender and go to, which one would you go for out of Gabriel and Saliba? Who do you think's more assured of his place long term? I think Gabriel is pretty solid.
Yeah, what I've heard from above average FPL, I think some big pod was saying that Gabriel is just the absolute rock in the defence. He's the one communicating. Is he actually the captain? Is that Odegaard's captain? But he was really performing like a captain at the back. He's marshalling them all. So I think they are the first choice pairing. I don't think either are going to lose their place. But I think if something did go wrong, I think Gabriel would stay, even though obviously he blundered completely with Mitrovic.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, apart from when Mitrovic whispers in his ear,
yeah,
he's absolutely rock solid, isn't he? So.
So yeah, it's only 0.3 now, isn't it? I mean, Salah has obviously had these fairly jammy returns. I can't even remember what his involvement was for the Arsenal goal for the assist, but obviously his goal was incredible the week before.
I think I probably would go Gabriel just because of the bonus points as well. He's doing
his baseline's better, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think if you don't need the money, then Gabriel probably. But then I know obviously this week you might not need the money, but 0.3, with Bailey dropping, that could be quite handy. So I don't know. I think that's a really tough one.
This week is really, really tough because and I almost have kind of like decision meltdown where I'm like, right, well, I'll just do Kulusevski to Gundogan because then I don't have to think about any of the rest of it. But if you're right, if he's vague on Zinchenko, then you look at that bench, you're like, well, Bailey might not even start, and it's Arsenal anyway. And then Nico against City away, I can't see him getting anything in that game. In fact, I can't see him getting any points in that game because I think they're going to concede more than 2, aren't they?
Yeah, it's one of those where you might even consider putting Archer second sub, but then if Williams gets he's been on some set pieces, he could get something.
Apparently he lost some set pieces in the Spurs game.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, apparently. I'm not sure who to, but I remember hearing that he wasn't on all the set pieces.
Okay.
If you had this team, what would you do?
I would do Zinchenko to Gabriel or Saliba, and maybe roll, but maybe Kulu out. Depends how annoyed you are with Kulu, I think.
I'm not annoyed with him at all. I just think that Gundo is a pretty good opportunity, and yet you're right. It's still, I have to look at it as 2 transfers because I'm probably not going to keep Gundogan long term, am I? So it's almost like I probably need to look at the timing of the wild card more.
Well, and this is actually just one other thing on the wild card. I think you've got to be, it's good to have it in your head, but it sounds a bit like maybe you're thinking of wild carding because Sarr has got crappy fixtures and maybe rolling is good because then...
No, also because of Bailey. And I mean, I think that this week, because Nico's has he got Bournemouth next week? So I can play him against Bournemouth.
Well, that was another thing I was looking at because it's very well saying we need Arsenal cover, but next week they've got United, right? And that is probably their worst fixture in a little block. So you might want to consider someone decent to cover. Yeah, Forest against Bournemouth, that's perfect, isn't it? You've got Williams to cover him.
Yeah.
So that's
that was the other thing, and that was the other reason why I was potentially looking at Perisic. But then he's got City the week after that. But I do like the Fulham fixture next week for Perisic. But he might not play. He might not play it. So maybe a sensible move for me is to go Zinchenko down to Dunk and get those those Brighton fixtures.
Yeah, could be that. Yeah,
and at least he's going to play. And as I said, I like my defenders to get attacking returns. Maybe he gets a cheeky header at some point. But
yeah, it's tricky. It is really tricky with transfers. So I think those are probably my vague thoughts. But yeah, what to do with Kulu is tricky. Zinchenko is, yeah, I think there's concrete news, get rid. I think if it's vague, get rid. But if it looks like he's going to play, fine.
But I think you're right that going to another Arsenal defender doesn't. That was the other reason why I was looking at Odegaard, because I don't mind Odegaard against United, but I don't think I need an Arsenal defender ahead of United. Although, you know, United looked pretty toothless against Southampton, didn't they? And Arsenal have started the season so well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that is quite a turning point there. Like I say, because if you went Arsenal defence, obviously Odegaard's a lot trickier to get back, but now's the opportunity to do that. It could be interesting.
I think, do you know what? Looking at this, the sensible thing to do is to wait for Zinchenko to get back fit. So even if I don't get concrete news, not to just jettison him and kind of burn a transfer on that. The sensible thing probably is, especially if I don't get good Zinchenko news, is to do Kulu and Bailey to Gross and Rodrigo, because at least then if Zinchenko doesn't play, you know, if I bench Andreas maybe, it means I'm strengthening my bench then, aren't I, for these very scenarios? And then bench Zinchenko because I don't know whether he's going to play, and then have Rodrigo, Andreas, and Gross all start with decent fixtures this week.
Yep. Yeah, you wouldn't have to bench Zinchenko though, right? It'd be 4-4-2. Kulu and Bailey starting, Andreas benched.
Yeah, but Bailey. Well, no, I'd probably. Oh, I see. As in just have Zinchenko, and then if he doesn't start or doesn't play a minute, because I think he'll come on, won't he? If he's fit enough to be on the bench,
so
he'll bring him on. So.
Zinchenko for Andreas. Yeah, okay. You keep Andreas him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might actually be the best route.
Yeah, no one's thinking on the wild card with SARS. Yeah, obviously that's one little thing you're thinking. But if you do have that almost concrete move in your head, which I agree, looking at SARS fixtures, they do go from decent to so bad. That's one where I don't know if you are trying to avoid the hits, to rolling soon might be good, because you know you're going to need at least one transfer that week. You know, maybe we'll get to that week and you don't need it, but.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I don't know, everything can change. You need just one injury to a big player or something like that to need to chop it around. But when I've planned this through, one of the reasons why I was looking at Kulu to Gundo is because even in the next few weeks, especially because of things like Nico Williams, you know, I think he's got a couple of nice fixtures in the next 3 or 4. I couldn't see what else I was going to do in the next few weeks. So yeah, hopefully the Saar will just be an easy switch to Sanchez, or I can go pretty much anywhere really, can't I, with the 5-0.
I mean, I think if you went Gundo, you are not necessarily a bad thing pushing yourself to wildcard, because that Spurs fixture, maybe the City's a bit tricky. Gundo's obviously a minute's risk. Yeah, you're going to get him in short term for hopefully 2 good fixtures, but long term he's probably going to be a bit annoying.
Yeah, I'm not ready. I don't think I'm ready to get rid of Zinchenko, even if unless he says he's out and he's going to be out for another couple of weeks or whatever. This is the thing. It'd be really interesting. It'd be really useful for me to get some concrete news from Arteta. And
yeah, has there been any team news today? I didn't actually check. I think
there was tomorrow. I think there was a press conference today. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was saying that there were some quotes from I can't remember which manager it was. Apologies, but I think there was a press conference today.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get more tomorrow. That is probably a thing to check, because sometimes you don't always get them, do you? If a team's playing in the Europa League, you sometimes don't get a press conference from them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So there we go.
All right, let's look at this table then. So you put the numbers in here from where did you actually get these from? Scout.
From Scout.
Okay, cool. And just to help with the midfielder conundrum, and you've benchmarked it against some strikers, right?
Yeah, I mean, not even necessarily benchmarking against the strikers. I just thought it was really interesting to see what Mitrovic is doing against Haaland, and obviously Salah's not a forward. I just kind of put Salah in there just because, just to as you said, just an interesting benchmark, and I think interesting to see that Salah is obviously got a negative XGI delta, because he's obviously was expected to get a lot more returns than he has, or at least 1.2 more returns than he has. Yeah, I think on here, I think it probably does show, doesn't it, that Rodrigo and Gross are pretty good shouts. Obviously, very strong numbers. I think Gross he's got the highest XA other than Kevin De Bruyne, I think. And yet he's also got 3 goals as well. So he's overperforming his XG, but
Kulu and Foden a bit more, but yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, well, interesting. I mean, so
different sources.
With different people with their different way of calculating it. But
right.
I'm sure I read that by another metric, his Gross's XA was high as second only to De Bruyne's. But yeah, it just shows that he, in that advanced position that he's playing, that kind of advanced wing back position, he's good for goals and assists, isn't he? Which is what you want. I mean, I think last season he got 1 goal, 1 assist, and he's already well above that. So he's absolutely flying. Harrison's somebody we haven't discussed, isn't he? I mean, do you consider Harrison or Aronson against Rodrigo, or
not really? Not unless you've really need the cash. The numbers sort of back that up, doesn't it? I mean, Rodrigo's got double the XGI of Harrison. That is a lot. And for 1 mil extra, it's one of those where I think just try and find the mil. Could work out. And Aronson, did he have even lower than Harrison, or not sure to omit him from here?
I didn't put Aronson in. Again, maybe he's streets ahead of both of them. I don't expect him to be. I would expect him to be actually slightly below Harrison, but there's still this talk about Rodrigo losing his place when Bamford gets back. I just cannot countenance it at all. I just don't see it.
It's a bit of a shame that no one here is definitely on pens in the top block, right? Do we even know who Leeds penalty taker is?
Well, no, they think it might be Rodrigo, don't they?
Oh, okay, but no pens yet to prove it. Obviously, Brighton seems to be McAllister, doesn't it?
Although people did think Gross might have them, didn't he? So if McAllister gets injured or is off the pitch, then Gross could get them. It probably is sensible just to go Rodrigo and Gross, but it just seems a bit dull to me. And I would fully expect them to both suddenly stop scoring, and that would be a very, very bad start to the season for me.
The one reassuring thing about Gross there is, his XGI delta is not really high, so at least he's not mega outperforming. I mean, you could say it's going to carry on, but he just has good raw XGI, Gross, and
true. And their next three fixtures, 4 fixtures look pretty good. So maybe it is the time to get him in.
So I've got Brighton as probably weighted as better 7th on the ticker for attack. Leeds 6th. Okay, it's really tight, but it slightly favours Leeds. They've got Forest, which is decent. Brighton have got a more consistent next 4, but then they turn sour quite quick, whereas Leeds are probably a bit more good longer term. So it's really tricky.
Who have you got? Leeds. Who are 5th? Spurs. Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? It's basically City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, and then Brighton, Leeds. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? That does make sense. Just if we're picking these players from these teams, but obviously because instead of just having Kulu being the one player from 5th place Spurs, I've suddenly upgraded Bailey, who is kind of about to disappear, isn't he? So
interesting with this table as well is that that there's not a lot of XA on it to balance the amount of XG. There must be a lot of other players somewhere that have got, well, if you say KDB, high XA, but maybe a lot of XA is coming from like defenders and stuff, because Haaland has got 10 times the XG as his XA. He's a complete goal poacher, but it's a bit strange, isn't it? Like, where are the assists actually coming from?
Yeah, but interestingly though, as well, I've never thought of that before. But if somebody passes the ball to Haaland on the centre circle or in the centre circle, and then he runs down the pitch and scores, I guess the XA is just as low as the XG, isn't it? Does the XA always match the XG?
No, that's a good point. I don't think it should do, should it? So it's either that, or maybe on here you've got penalty XG rather than non-penalty XG.
No, so all of these numbers are, I think they're all non-penalty almost by accident, because I picked the XG number, but I don't think any of these teams have had a penalty. Could be wrong on that. Although obviously Mitrovic has had a penalty.
Yeah. Haaland's had one, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, did he? Oh yeah, did he take the one against West Ham in the first game? Is that a penalty?
can't remember now. I
The
thought he
first
had
goal.
and it was confirmed that he was on penalties. But yeah, anyway. But no, maybe you're right. Actually, maybe it is. Yeah, if it's before a mazy run, the XA is going to be low, and the XG could
But
be high. So maybe
I
it's
think
that.
the XA would be just as low as the goal, wouldn't it? Maybe that is how it's balanced out.
I think it would if it was a direct cross and it was first time shot, but I'm not sure if there was lots of touches from the.
Oh, true.
score.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, diving into it, unimportant.
Really getting into it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which when we should be winding it down, Mr. Shlee.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah, I think from this, I mean, yeah, sorted by total points, and I put Salah in the wrong place, but it's interesting that his points 26, one less than Diaz, shows how frustrating, Salah has been for some of his owners. Gross and Rodrigo.
I think it also just shows. I think it also just shows how, things change so quickly in your mind in this game, because Diaz seems like a fantastic option now because he got 2 goals in a 9-0, but he scored a brilliant goal against Palace as well. But he's had a pretty disappointing start to the season as well. Outside of those things, he's obviously returned in 2 games, but Salah didn't need a lot to be outscoring him, didn't he? But I guess he is that much more expensive, so he should be.
Yeah, but then I thought you were going to say, look at his XG, Diaz, it's only 1. It's not great. And Gundo's got about the same from presumably less minutes. So I don't think Diaz is a long-term hold. I think he's on a bit of a purple patch. And maybe when Darwin comes back, or maybe Liverpool do falter a bit, maybe he's going to go for some of his owners.
Yeah, and I think maybe this season might be about, we all started thinking we're going to need these 8 million mids, but maybe the value's found in those 6 million mids again.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe that's the way we'll fund 3 decent strikers as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think maybe like 5-2-3 is coming, or maybe 4-3-3. But I don't see that much need for midfielders.
Yeah, I do. I think that'll be the wild card probably for me, is when I switch to 3 up front. But it's not. You don't necessarily need millions of transfers. But I think Mitrovic is definitely on the radar. That's probably the other thing I should probably look at with 2 free transfers. You're right. I shouldn't be taking a hit, but I just don't think I can get enough cash out of the team to get Archer up to Mitrovic. But he's just looked amazing, I think.
Yeah, look at that 3.4. That is insane.
Doesn't seem to matter who he's playing. I mean, in that 3.4, you've got Arsenal and City, haven't you? So, in fact, no, sorry, Arsenal and Liverpool. Yeah.
What was I going to say just then? It's gone. Oh, and us also saying, well, surely Brighton can handle Fulham, but we've said that about everyone that's come up against Fulham. Like Mitrovic just seems absolutely on it. Anything aerial in the box, he's an absolute menace.
Yeah, maybe I need to look at using.
I mean, that is, though, just purely on the fixtures. They're not great, are they, for a bit? But they do then come good.
And everyone was saying Tony, and that's the other thing. Obviously, maybe that's probably the way to play FPL, is like think about who we were talking about last week, and now we're not talking about them just because of one blank or one bad game. No one's talking about Tony anymore, and yet, he's still a brilliant option, isn't he? And they've got great fixtures for the next.
Yeah, so that Palace fixture I think is tricky. So it was a little bit of a get them last week or wait 2 weeks, and it's Leeds. Okay, they're leaking chances, but I think they were just nullified a bit by Brighton. They've not become a bad side, so that's a bit more. That could go either way, but I don't think Brentford options are one to buy this week.
No, fair enough.
Do you want to do the questions we had, or I think we probably covered most of them? Should we just wrap it up?
Let's have a quick look at the questions and see if we've covered them.
Okay.
Because I think there's a few things that we haven't covered in here because they're not in our team necessarily.
Yeah, sure. So this is one, for more things that are not focused on our squads. But Robertson out. If you had him, would you look to be ditching? Probably not this week, but soon.
Yeah, I wouldn't this week, probably for similar reasons with Cancelo. In fact, if I still had Robertson, I would definitely keep him this week, I think.
But I think if he's a double up, then I would consider him a cash cow soon to, if you had Trent, then
I think I don't know. I think I might get rid of Cancelo first, but I guess City's defense is looking that bit stronger, isn't it? But I'd obviously be more confident that Robertson could suddenly start bringing some attacking returns than I would be Cancelo.
Yeah, well, this new sort of role that Cancelo's got, he's more becoming like a central CDM, but not really bombing on as much. So yeah, he's sort of getting as advanced, but not in the right positions. Interesting.
Yeah, I think I would do Cancelo out first.
Yeah, okay. And then secondly, what about switching Robertson to Diaz? Obviously, switching positions, that's a 2 free transfer kind of thing. I think that kind of depends what Diaz looks like. Was it a flash in the pan last week, or is he quite advanced? And so with Nunez coming in, that's going to be tricky to know, but I think that's really tricky to do.
Yeah, I think it doesn't seem sensible to not have 3 Liverpool, does it? But it's seeming kind of harder than it ever has to kind of know who those 3 should be.
Yeah.
And so, well, certainly in the last few years. But yeah, I think Darwin is probably quite a good way. He's looked pretty electric when he's played, hasn't he? He could be quite a good differential and quite a good third Liverpool.
I think I'd be more tempted if I had Robertson and not Diaz to remove Robertson, but not for Diaz. I would probably do it in bits. I'd probably remove Robertson for Saliba, Dunk, Gabriel, whoever you don't really have, James, say. And then, if you have to backtrack and go back to Robertson because he looks electric, fine. But it could also be that Diaz or Nunez is the one to go to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't at this stage be looking to try and use transfers to move from Robertson to Diaz because I think they're both capable of similar points.
Fair. Sterling in and Mount out, kind of linked to Chelsea mids. Sterling seems the goal poacher there, doesn't he? And Mount seems really off it.
Just so difficult to get to that price point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if we're gonna, he's 10. Even if we've got these kind of, did he drop to 9.9?
Not sure, but he got 15 points, didn't he, last week? So he's probably on the way up.
Yeah. They're good fixtures, aren't they, for Chelsea? But they've just had such a weird start.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit of a wait. It's just a bit of a wait and see. A bit like with United, actually. I can see Southampton giving them a lot of trouble, actually. In the next game, I don't think they'll get a load of goals, but it's just a wait and see for me. I would. It's again the kind of thing that you'd probably have to wildcard to try and change your structure to get in that kind of price point. Not for me at the moment, but Mount. If I had Mount, I would definitely get rid. I'd like to think that I would have got rid of him last week, but I'm in a couple of chats with people who've got him, and I can see why they held because they're like, well, he's got this fixture, etc., etc. But
yeah, a little bit like Saka, isn't it? Although at least Saka next week at United's got a fairly obvious place to get out, according to that ticker. Mount is this week. It's the hardest of the next 3, but it's tough, isn't it? Yeah, Southampton could be a blimmin' 5-0, or Southampton could win 1-0.
Yeah,
really
just look at that again. If you look at Arsenal on the ticker, look at when I was talking about wildcarding in game week 7-8. Look at 9, 10, 12 for Arsenal.
Yeah. And
I mean
that whitish because Arsenal are good, but so are the opposition.
You don't want 3 Arsenal for 9, 10, 12.
Agreed. Yeah, it doesn't scare me too much of slowly moving them out. But yeah, if you were going to wild card, you might only have Jesus as a bit of a cover, and maybe no one else.
Yeah, maybe. Especially some pretty good options now in Martinelli's price bracket, aren't there?
Yeah, and then haven't actually coloured after 14. But okay, there's Southampton and Forest in there, but then Chelsea away, Wolves away. There's a couple of tricky ones in there. So I mean, it makes sense, right? Their fixtures have been insane to start, so tough ones are coming.
Yeah.
Saka out, we've kind of discussed. If you go into Martinelli, I think do it. But I mean, obviously he got the assist, and he was it 2 1-on-1s he had, and he missed. He certainly had one and missed it. Really tough. I'll probably hold this week and then ditch next week for United.
Yeah, it's annoying. I feel like Saka will be one of those. I'm not so afraid of it with Mount, or people shouldn't be as afraid of it with Mount. But I feel like when you take Saka out, he's going to start scoring. He's a great player, isn't he? And they're doing well.
Great player. The longer you hold him, it's like more likely to happen, isn't it? But there's no doubt he's off form, and I don't think his role is as attacking as like you said, Odegaard and Martinelli. They seem to be more of the focal point.
Yeah, but then isn't Martinelli? I think Odegaard's playing in Xhaka's position on the right rather than because I think Martinelli is the out. He's playing Saka's position on the left, isn't he? And then you've got Xhaka inside. So I think so. That's strange that Martinelli is outperforming Saka, isn't it? Then
Yeah, but obviously it's not symmetrical, is it? I think that's a lot to do with maybe what fullback's playing on that side, and maybe Saka's better at tracking back than Martinelli, so he's being asked to more. So he's sacrificing himself for the left side.
Yeah, fair enough.
Dalot and any other United romance, I think Above Average FPL summed it up quite nicely that it's exciting to see what's happening, but still too early to go there.
Yeah, I mean, as you know from my panicky messages on, was it Saturday, where I didn't have Rashford and I was really worried about it. I actually felt a lot better about not having Rashford as soon as I heard that Martial was injured.
Right.
Because I think if Martial plays up top and Rashford plays out left, as you saw in the Liverpool game, Martial picks the ball up on the halfway line. He'll go past somebody and then he's looking to play that ball in behind for Rashford to run onto. And that is really dangerous. I think Rashford up top is not anything that you need to worry about from a fantasy perspective. It sounds great because he's up front, but he's always been much better cutting in from the left or, running clean through from the left. So they look pretty toothless against Southampton. I watched quite a lot of that. And they also, should have by rights had a penalty given against. And I think if United lose the clean sheet, I don't think anyone's really talking about getting Dalot in. It's just because of that big score. I wouldn't go near United yet. I think Leicester's a good fixture, but
they're quite polar, aren't they? The fixtures.
Yeah, but you just don't know as well. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from them. And yeah, the fixtures are pretty mixed. Although I think from 14 onwards, they're really good, aren't they? Up until
14, right?
No, I know it's a long, long way off, but I think they get really good after that Chelsea game.
Yeah, West Ham, Villa, Fulham, pretty good. Yeah, although Villa maybe new manager, Fulham, Craven Cottage, West Ham maybe in Europe they'll be tired, but yeah.
Well, I think also the issue is that they don't get good enough long enough before the unlimited transfers, do they? So because I think they're good. I think they're good kind of after that as well. But by that point, you could bring if they look good, you could bring a couple of them in on the unlimited transfers, couldn't you?
Yeah.
If Martial's back, or if because they've obviously bought what's the Ajax winger called?
Anthony.
Yeah, he looks. I think he's going to be good. So wait and see.
Agreed. And then I think we've covered number 7 for sure. So
yeah, I think we have covered that to death. I'm going to go and have a little play around with that and see. I think it's between the Gundogan for 1 week punt or just getting Gross and Rodrigo and continuing to play fairly sensibly. But I'm just going to be annoyed that I didn't do those moves weeks ago because I'd be in a very different position.
Yeah, it's always tough as well when there's like 4 or 5 players in the mix and you can only pick maybe 1 or 2 because statistics tells you you're probably not going to get all of the holes and everyone at it right. So that's really tricky. And they're all in form and they're all similar price. So and goodish fixtures. So it is really down to the gut feel and a bit of luck, I think.
You think though? I mean, again, Gross and Rodrigo, what they have going for them over the other players is, I know what people are saying about Rodrigo, but they're I'm not concerned about their minutes. They're not in Europe, which is huge as we move into this next phase. Whereas the other options where I'm looking at get Perisic in, it's just like, it could be great, but it could also be super frustrating. I think Gross and Rodrigo are the sensible ones. And I think it's annoying to have to lose Kulusevski if I do, in fact, do that. But I picked Bailey at the start of the season, so I got to take my medicine, I think.
Yeah. Right. We are there.
Cool.
Did you just quickly on any other content? Did you listen to all of the Blackbox Match of the Day special? I listened to sort of the first quarter of it.
I listened to all of it. Again, I was still painting. It was a real masterpiece that
Jose's great. You've done
I turned it into a Haaland one after.
So you've done 3 sort of 1.5 hour pods in the last few days. You've really been hitting the content.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot. At the start of this week. So yeah, I listened to all of their Match of the Day challenge. It was amazing, and it was almost like
live with the pictures or after.
No, I didn't. I just listened to it
after,
and I knew what the
still entertaining, isn't it?
It was amazing. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. There was a time though where when Az mentioned that Lynn had been messaging him and kind of saying, you know, it's going to be interesting tonight, or there are going to be a lot of people watching. I think a lot of people then were apparently giving them some stick that she just told him some things. But
sure.
some of the things they said really did make it look like they'd looked.
Yeah.
Because even later on, when they were, you wouldn't have got to this necessarily, but when they were like, oh, they were talking about the Man United game and why it wasn't earlier in the show. And they were saying, oh, you know, it's probably just a 1-0 Fernandes goal. And you're like, come on, guys.
No, I don't for us. Well, I know it seems a bit strange. I don't believe that they staged it in any way. I genuinely think they did it. And, you know, a few things all the time, didn't they say? There's a plane going over, sorry, it might be a bit loud.
No worries.
You know, that Haaland would get at least 2. Rather than, I know they also did say he might get a hat trick, but you know they were very inconsistent, so it would have been quite a good act to have done that.
Yeah, no, I think they did. I think they genuinely did it.
But yeah, it was quite funny great. When Mark had his pain list, and yeah, I certainly heard that bit. But then it seemed, did it sort of end then? Did he sort of conclude that almost it was a bit of a fuss about nothing, because they were like, oh my god, there's 4,000 people watching, but then Mark was like, oh okay, everyone's turned up because I've basically wildcarded out all these players. Did he almost sort of think, you know, so what, guys, you know, thanks very much for coming to sort of watch my pain, but you didn't have to in these many numbers, you know? He seemed a bit sort of underwhelmed by what had happened.
No, I think he admitted that it was pretty unfortunate. You know, you think his wildcard was kind of built on having KDB instead of Haaland, and
sure. And regrettably going to Salah, but he didn't have Diaz. So yeah, those are the 2 biggies. But I think he was also expecting sort of almost everyone that he took out to haul, like Saka and can't remember who else. But you know, he was really worried about Saka. But actually, you know, only 6 pointers. So
yeah, but there was something else as well. I mean, like obviously his keeper going Raya over. He could have gone Henderson, couldn't he?
Okay.
I think he was talking up Henderson massively, and we haven't spoken about Henderson tonight. But even now, Henderson could be a good shout, because you know, he's not going to save a penalty every week, although at the moment it seems like he is. But he's a brilliant goalkeeper, and he's going to get a lot of chances to make saves. And he'll get the odd game where he will keep a clean sheet, and he'll have made 10 saves because he's that good.
Yeah.
So we haven't really spoken about him, but just because it just doesn't feel like the defense is strong enough. But maybe he'll be somebody that a lot of us will just overlook because of that defense, and he'll just keep getting good scores. But I think the thing that took the thing with the other thing was obviously he had Tony as well. Tony didn't score. He had Mitrovic on his bench. Mitrovic scored. So it wasn't great. Like, it was a bit of a catalogue of things that could go wrong, did go wrong, really.
It was a catalogue of sort of interesting talking points, wasn't it? Yeah, either got rid of the wrong person, or didn't have the right person, or bench points. There was a lot to get into. I think it was just a mixture of all of that. But you know, I think he thought it'd be one massive thing, whereas actually it was quite a few medium-sized things that made everyone thought this is going to be good fun.
When I was listening to it on Saturday night, because he went to the Spurs Forest game the next day. He was saying he was going. He was like, I'm going to watch Kane and Son. And just if Son had suddenly just got a hat trick, that would have been absolutely devastating for him. Can you imagine that? I mean, it did sound pretty painful on Saturday night, but if Son had got a hat trick on,
yeah, true, yeah, it could have all not been over actually on Saturday.
God, yeah, brutal.
One thing we didn't talk about, sorry, which is quite important, which we'll quickly discuss, captaincy. What are your percentages on Salah versus Haaland then at the moment, given we've had no team news?
Good shout. I think, again, I don't know whether it's because of my position or just because of how good I think Haaland is.
Yeah.
And the fact that City team has just flipped around to point everything at him rather than, you know, false nine or, you know, how good the midfield. Everything's going through him. I think I'm going to captain Haaland, and if he doesn't play at all, fine. I think he will. I think he'll get, even if he gets 20 minutes. But imagine if he comes off the bench for the last 20 minutes. I could see him getting a couple of returns in that time.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
and how confident are you with that? Like, you know, the classic black box analogy of if you had 10 marbles, whatever it is, how many would you put in each bag?
As in of him starting, or of me captaining him?
If you had 10 sort of captain chips to put down, you know, on a roulette board or whatever they would.
Oh, not amazingly. I think
6
probably
on one, 4 on the other, or something.
Probably 6 and 4. Yeah, just because I am a bit worried that he's not going to start, and obviously if he does only get 20 minutes, chances are that Salah in his anger at not getting a return in the 9-0,
Mm.
goes off. I just think, again, in the wire, they were talking about the injuries at Newcastle. I do think that makes it more likely, especially after a 9-0 against Bournemouth, because Eddie Howe's he's not going to want to be embarrassed by Liverpool. They're doing really well. Newcastle have had a pretty decent start. He's not going to want to get tonked like 5-0 by Liverpool. So I think given the injuries they've got, especially if St. Maximin's out, and even if he's not, they could play a low block and then have a St. Max trying to hit them on the break.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Newcastle team news is not one I've kind of got on my radar for tomorrow, but that is quite important for the Salah side. I'm not sure to read too much into the whole like Salah being angry, and I'm sure they won't make it out. That's the most important thing, but
No,
I don't know if that's a mega thing.
No, but I do think he is the kind of player that he is going to want to. He's going to want to. He wants to score in every game, but he might be in moments where he'll think he picks up the ball instead of looking for a pass. He might try and take someone on and go at goal because he's thinking about the last game.
I think I'm 55-45 on Salah at the moment, but again, maybe
Salah's definitely the safer pick. I just think let's see what if Pep gives us anything, I don't think he will, because I think he's already said what he's going to say.
Yeah, I agree. I'm worried that there's probably going to be nothing on it, which is a bit frustrating. I mean, Haaland came off on about 80 minutes, I think. So
yeah,
it
it's
loads,
late.
but I think Salah, it was late. But I think Salah got 90, so maybe both of them would get taken off sort of 60 minutes. Maybe both start 60 minutes and don't do too much.
Yeah, but the bigger issue is, especially because it's Forest, and this is the thing, maybe this is a bit of a double whammy. If I bring Gundogan in, I can captain Haaland. If I don't bring Gundogan in, maybe I don't. It's just too much pain, isn't it?
Too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and if Gundogan, I think if Haaland doesn't, I think Gundogan definitely plays this game. So, this is going to be such an annoying week because the whole Haaland Salah thing is going to add on to the pain. I don't know what to do now. You've completely.
Yeah, transfers is one thing, but captaincy for me is going to come down to the last 10 minutes probably. See if anything comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe I save my season. I'll get Gundogan in and captain him.
Might be a good shout. I definitely think that City fixture, I was going to just sanity check on the ticker, but it's more blue and it's bold, whereas Liverpool, actually Liverpool's is bold as well, but it's less blue. So this is one of those lessons learned from last season where got to be careful of Salah. Popular captain, but is City better? I think City are going to beat Forest more than Liverpool beat Newcastle. But it's the X-Mins, isn't it, of Haaland is the risk.
Ooh, imagine bringing Gundogan in and captaining him. I actually quite like that.
It's a very neat move.
Super dangerous.
Right, should we leave it there?
Yes, indeed. We massively went over, didn't we? But that was very helpful again. Although I've got to now sort my thoughts out, and we haven't got long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need to just double check if any price rises before bedtime, but then it is definitely bedtime. Right, well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. Night, everyone. Cheers, Nick.
Thanks, Shlee. All the best.